It started with a Craigslist ad. A simple house-sitting gig, $500 for one night. Too good to pass up, right? The house was in the middle of nowhere, but I didn't think much of it. The guy who owned it, an older man, gave me the rules. Water the plants, don't open the basement door, and whatever I do, don't let the cats in. Cats. I didn't even see any around, but he seemed dead serious. Once he left, the house felt wrong. The air was heavy, and the creaks of the old wood echoed like whispers. Around 10 p.m., I heard a knock at the front door. It was a steady, deliberate knock. When I looked through the peephole, no one was there. Just darkness. I thought it might have been the wind, until I heard scratching at the back door. Slow, rhythmic scratching, like something was trying to claw its way inside. I grabbed a flashlight, opened the curtain just a crack, and froze. There were cats, 3 of them, sitting perfectly still in the yard. Their eyes reflected the light, glowing unnaturally. Their faces, they weren't right. It's hard to explain, but their jaws looked crooked, like they didn't fit together. I shut the curtain and backed away. That's when I heard it, the basement door creaking open. My stomach dropped. I swear I hadn't gone near it. I walked down the hallway, trying to stay calm. The door was slightly ajar, and cold air was seeping out. I pointed the flashlight down the stairs. There was nothing but blackness. Then I heard a voice. "Help me." It was faint, but clear enough to make my blood run cold. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and tried to breathe, but the whispering didn't stop. It got louder. It wasn't just one voice now, it was many. Some pleading, some laughing, some growling. I wanted to leave, but when I reached for my keys, they were gone. I swear I'd left them on the counter. I was trying to figure out what to do when there was another knock at the door. This time it wasn't just a knock. The handle started to turn. Slowly. I backed away. And then bang. Something crashed in the basement. I nearly screamed. My flashlight flickered, and I was too scared to move. I just stood there, frozen, while the whispers turned into guttural growls. Finally, I bolted out the back door and ran. I didn't care about the dark or the woods. I just needed to get out of there. A passing truck stopped, and the driver helped me get to safety. The next morning, I told the police what happened. They went to check the house, but when they came back, they had this look on their faces. One of them said, "The man who hired you, he's been dead for years." His body was found in the basement, mauled, by his cats. I didn't stay to hear the rest. I haven't been back since, and I don't answer Craigslist ads anymore.
Okay, so this happened a couple of years ago. I was broke, trying to make some quick cash, and I saw this Craigslist ad for an overnight house-sitting job. Easy money, right? $500 for just staying the night in some guy's house. I emailed the guy, and within a few hours, he responded, asking if I could come that same night. It felt a bit rushed, but I agreed. When I got there, the guy seemed off. He didn't introduce himself, barely made eye contact, and gave me these weird instructions. Don't open the basement door, don't let the cats in, and don't call me unless it's an emergency. Cats? I didn't even see any around, but whatever. I just wanted the cash. By the time he left, it was already dark, and the house felt wrong. Like, I can't explain it, but the air felt heavier inside. I tried to distract myself by scrolling on my phone, but around 10 p.m., I heard it, a knock at the front door. It wasn't loud, just this soft, slow knock. I thought it was the guy coming back for something, so I checked the peephole. Nothing. The porch was empty. I opened the door anyway, just to be sure, but there was no one there. No footprints in the dirt, nothing. I was trying to shake it off when I heard scratching at the back door. This wasn't like a tree branch or wind, it was deliberate, rhythmic scratching. I grabbed my flashlight, and when I shined it outside, I saw them. 3 cats, just sitting there. But they weren't normal cats. Their faces, it's hard to describe, but their eyes were too wide, their jaws didn't line up, and they didn't move. They just stared at me. I shut the curtain and walked back to the living room, trying to calm down, when I heard another noise, the basement door creaking open. I froze. The guy told me not to open it, but I swear I hadn't gone near it. I walked down the hallway, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The door was slightly open, and the air coming out was ice cold. I leaned closer, trying to see down the stairs, when I heard it. A voice. A woman's voice, whispering, "Help me." That's when I lost it. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and backed away. But the whispering didn't stop. It got louder, like multiple voices overlapping. I could hear crying, laughing, and then something growling. I wanted to leave, but when I went to grab my keys from the counter, they were gone. I know I left them there. And then, knock, knock, knock. The front door again. This time, the handle started to turn. I backed into the corner of the living room, clutching my flashlight, and then, bang! A loud crash came from the basement, like something heavy had been thrown against the door. I didn't wait to find out what it was. I bolted out the back door and ran. I didn't stop until I reached the main road, where a truck driver picked me up. The next morning, I called the cops to check the house. They called me back later and said, "Sir, the man who hired you, he's been dead for over 5 years. His body was found in that basement, surrounded by his cats." Yeah, I didn't ask for details. I just hung up. And I've never used Craigslist. So, a couple of years ago, I was browsing Craigslist, looking for a deal on a PS4. I didn't have much money, but I saw this ad, PS4 for sale, barely used, $100. It seemed too good to be true, but I figured I'd take a shot. The seller was in a sketchy part of town, but the price was so low, I figured, what could go wrong? I texted the number in the ad, and within minutes, I got a reply with the address and a time to meet up. The guy said he'd be in a building off a side street, and I was like, whatever. Cheap PS4, right? When I got there, the place was run down, graffiti on the walls, the whole area looked deserted. But I didn't think too much of it. I knocked on the door, and after a long pause, it creaked open. A guy, probably in his late 30s, stood there. His eyes were bloodshot, and his hands were shaking. He said he was just about to leave and that the PS4 was in the back room. The guy led me through a dark hallway, and I couldn't help but notice the strange smell, almost like something rotting. I figured it was just the building's condition, but it made my stomach turn. As we got to the back room, I saw it, a PS4 sitting on the floor. But as I stepped forward, I noticed the place wasn't just messy, it was trashed. Broken furniture, empty bottles everywhere, and the weirdest part, the walls were covered in strange drawings and notes, like someone had gone completely insane. The guy handed me the PS4, but then he said something that made my skin crawl. "You sure you want to buy it? It's not what you think." I tried to laugh it off, but the vibe in that room shifted. The guy's expression changed, like he was sizing me up. That's when I saw them, 2 other people in the corner, just staring at me. They didn't say a word, but they had that look, you know? Like they were waiting for something to happen. I told the guy I'd think about it and started to back away. That's when one of the people in the corner stood up. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight. He had a knife, a long, serrated blade that looked way too sharp for comfort. The guy who opened the door saw the tension and stepped forward. He said, "It's fine. Just a little misunderstanding. You still want the PS4, right?" At that moment, I knew I was in deep. I didn't want to stick around and find out what misunderstanding meant. I made some excuse about needing cash and turned to leave. But the door, the one I came in through, was closed now. I felt my heart race. I wasn't just going to be robbed. I could tell something worse was going to happen. The guy with the knife was moving closer, and the other 2 were getting up. They weren't saying anything, just staring at me like I was their next target. I turned around, pretending to reach for my phone, but really I was looking for an exit. I noticed a window at the far side of the room. It was cracked, but it was better than being trapped. I ran for it, pushing the glass out with my elbow, ignoring the cuts on my arm. I didn't stop running until I hit the street. I didn't even look back. I jumped in my car, locked the doors, and drove off, not stopping until I was far away from that hellhole. I never went back to that part of town, and I definitely never trusted another Craigslist deal. You can find good stuff, sure, but you might just end up with a whole lot more than you bargained for.